You ever have one of those moments where someone underestimates you so completely that you almost feel bad for them? That was me last Saturday afternoon, standing in my own backyard, tongs in hand, flipping ribs on the grill while the sweet aroma of hickory smoke curled through the air. I didn't realize it yet, but my peaceful Saturday cookout was about to spiral into a full-blown showdown with the HOA's most infamous busybody. Everyone in the neighborhood called her Karen. Not her real name, of course, but it fit her like a badge. She patrolled our quiet cul-de-sac as if it were her personal kingdom, armed with clipboards, measuring tapes, and that ever-present scowl. You could hear her heels clicking on the pavement long before she even knocked on your door. If a blade of grass dared grow taller than regulation height, she would notice. That afternoon, the sun was blazing, the ribs were sizzling perfectly, and my family's laughter floated across the patio. I cracked open a cold drink when I heard the gate slam behind me. And there she was, Karen, arms crossed, sunglasses perched high on her nose, and fury practically radiating off her like heat from a furnace. "Chief Morgan," she began, her tone all sugary politeness. "I noticed the smell of smoke. You know our HOA rules forbid open fires unless approved in advance." I froze, tongs midair. "It's a grill, Karen. A barbecue, not a bonfire," she sniffed, lips pursed. "Well, I didn't get my invitation. You know, as HOA president, it's customary to share." I thought she was joking. I wasn't. Before I could respond, she whipped out her phone and started snapping pictures of my grill, my guests, even my patio furniture. "This will all go into my report," she muttered under her breath. "Now I've dealt with my fair share of difficult people. I'm the police chief in this town, but there's a particular patience required when the person harassing you is your neighbor." Still, I stayed calm. "Karen, put the phone down. You're trespassing," she scoffed. "Trespassing? Don't threaten me with your little badge. The HOA is above that." That's when I realized this wasn't about the barbecue. This was about control. She wanted to push me, see how far she could go before I snapped. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction, not yet. Because if Karen wanted a war over my backyard grill, she was about to find out exactly who she was dealing with. The next morning, I woke up to an email from the HOA. Subject line, "Violation Notice. Unauthorized BBQ activity." I laughed out loud. Karen had actually filed a report. According to her documentation, my grill violated fire safety codes, emitted excessive smoke, and, this made me almost spit my coffee, attracted an unapproved gathering. Apparently, my family counted as an unapproved gathering. I could have ignored it, but one line in that email made my jaw tighten. "Failure to comply will result in fines, suspension of privileges, and possible legal action." No way was I letting a self-appointed neighborhood monarch bully me on my own property. Later that day, I walked into the next HOA meeting. Every first Tuesday of the month, same stuffy community center, same folding chairs, same faces pretending to be awake. But this time, I came prepared, armed with the HOA charter, highlighted and tabbed like a legal brief. Karen was already at the head table, grinning like a cat about to toy with a mouse. "Chief Morgan," she said smugly, "so glad you could join us. Care to explain why you ignored fire safety regulations?" The room went silent. Every neighbor suddenly discovered that their fingernails were fascinating. I set my binder down, looked her directly in the eye, and said, "Karen, you cited Section 4.3 of the HOA fire policy, which covers open flames and bonfires, not gas or charcoal grills. Those are explicitly permitted under Section 45, provided they're attended at all times, which mine was." Her smile wavered. I flipped another page. "And as for your complaint about smoke, our local fire department, which, by the way, I oversee, has no record of nuisance reports. So unless you plan to call yourself as a witness, I'd say this case is dismissed." A couple of neighbors snickered. One even clapped before realizing it wasn't that kind of meeting. Karen's face turned bright red. "This isn't over," she hissed. "You can't intimidate me with your badge." I leaned in slightly, meeting her glare head-on. "No need to be intimidated, Karen. Just follow the rules, the same ones you expect everyone else to follow." The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. But as I walked out, I caught her standing by the bulletin board, typing furiously on her phone. And right then I knew she wasn't finished. Karen was plotting something. Something far bigger than a simple BBQ complaint. I got 3 days of quiet. That's all. 3 peaceful, ordinary days before the storm hit. It started small. First, a letter from the city zoning department appeared in my mailbox, an anonymous complaint about alleged illegal modifications to my backyard. Then a noise citation for loud disturbances was taped to my front door. The best part? The complaint was time-stamped at 3:14 a.m. when my entire household was fast asleep. I didn't need a detective unit to figure out who was behind this. Karen was escalating. She had discovered a new tactic, weaponizing bureaucracy, and she was shockingly good at it. The next day, a code enforcement officer showed up to inspect my property. Polite, almost apologetic, he said, "Sir, we received a report regarding an unsafe structure," gesturing toward my patio pergola. "Unsafe structure?" I repeated, incredulous. "That thing is anchored in concrete," he sighed. "We get these calls sometimes, usually from concerned neighbors." Concerned neighbors right after an inspection? Where? I couldn't hide the sarcasm. Of course, he found nothing wrong. I walked back inside and pulled up my driveway security footage. There she was, Karen. 6:12 a.m., in her robe, sneaking around my mailbox with a folder clutched in her hands. That was when I realized this had stopped being petty. It was personal. So I decided to fight back, not with anger, not with threats, but with documentation. I compiled everything, every notice, every photo, every timestamp. I built a case file thicker than a phone book. Then I called the city attorney. "Chief Morgan," he said, chuckling when he recognized my voice. "What's the issue?" "I'm being harassed," I replied, "by my HOA president. I have evidence of trespassing, false reports, and misuse of authority under the association charter." He paused. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. Within a week, a formal investigation began." Karen didn't see it coming. She strutted around the neighborhood as if untouchable, until a city compliance officer appeared at her door carrying a stack of subpoenas. Word spread fast. The neighborhood grapevine lit up like wildfire. Some whispered that I had gone nuclear. Others said Karen had finally picked the wrong person to mess with. I kept grilling. Same backyard, same ribs, same laughter. But deep down, I knew the story wasn't over. People like Karen don't back down, they double down. And if I knew her half as well as I thought I did, she was already plotting her next move. By the next HOA meeting, the neighborhood buzzed with electric tension. You could feel it humming beneath the small talk and fake smiles. Everyone knew something big was about to happen. Karen arrived 20 minutes early, armed with her usual clipboard, stacks of papers, and that icy confidence that screamed, "I'm in charge." She didn't even glance at me as I walked in, which of course told me everything I needed to know. She had a plan. When the meeting started, she wasted no time. "Before we begin," she announced loudly, "I need to address a serious breach of community trust. Our own police chief has been conducting surveillance on neighbors without consent." The room gasped. She turned, finger pointing directly at me. "That's right. Chief Morgan here has cameras recording everyone's comings and goings. Doesn't that make you feel unsafe?" I leaned back, letting her dig her own hole. Then I stood slowly. "Karen, you mean the security camera on my driveway? The one that caught you tampering with my mailbox at 6 a.m.? Silence. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. I pulled a small USB stick from my pocket and handed it to the compliance officer in the back. "You'll find video evidence of multiple incidents of trespassing and harassment. All time-stamped, all filed with the city attorney." Karen's face turned the color of overcooked shrimp. You can't. This is slander." "Actually," I said calmly, "it's evidence." The compliance officer nodded. "We've already reviewed the footage. Mrs. Haskins, her real name, you violate HOA bylaws, Section 17, regarding abuse of authority. You're hereby removed as HOA president effective immediately." Gasps erupted across the room. A few people even clapped this time, no effort to hide it. Karen stood frozen, clutching her clipboard like it could save her. Then, without another word, she turned and stormed out, heels clicking furiously all the way to the parking lot. That was the last HOA meeting she ever attended. Weeks later, the neighborhood felt lighter. People waved again. Kids played outside. And one Saturday afternoon, as the smell of barbecue drifted through the air, a few neighbors wandered over with plates and smiles. "Mind if we join?" one asked. I grinned. "Grab a plate. There's plenty for everyone." Just like that, the backyard that had sparked a war became the heart of the block once again. Karen moved out a month later. The house sold quickly. Sometimes justice doesn't need sirens or handcuffs. Sometimes it just takes a grill, a good memory, and the patience to let the truth cook itself. If you enjoyed this wild HOA story, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more wild neighborhood dramas, and drop a comment below. I love reading your takes.